Hello everyone. As preparation for the fight against Gore Magala, keep in mind that its biggest weak spot is its head and especially its antennae, once it is in frenzy mode. The wing arms, including the easy to hit claws, are also good weak spots, which are mainly accessible during frenzy mode, just like its antennae. If you want to bring an element, bring fire or dragon, although fire is slightly better. Paralysis is also a very good option, because it helps you to shut down this very active monster more easily. Flash bombs don't work on Gore since it is completely blind. It relies on the hairs from its coat to sense its surroundings in the fight with the help of the sensory organs on its head. Traps work very well, however, and if you see an alpha Ravna running around, grab its horns for paralysis ammo for your slinger. A common complaint I hear about fighting Gore is the areas of the ice shard cliffs being too small. Use these. Lure Gore to a more comfortable area for you to fight him. You don't have to fight him on bridges or other narrow corridors. As for skills, I can highly recommend evade distance or evade window. I personally prefer the latter, and for evade window level 2 or 3 you can either eat the mud shrimp or even better the turbid shrimp. If you're running a standard high DPS set and maybe you already have Gore pieces, remember that Gore will inflict you with frenzy virus, so you don't need his armor for that. Just a thought, so you can perhaps bring different pieces and still equip antivirus for the buffs. Now onto the fight. You want to start the hunt with a sneak attack, enabling Power X mode, and then morph to sword mode and position yourself towards the head with your standard sword attacks, so you can counter the well telegraphed roar and hit the counter on the head. You can reliably go for a heavenward flurry from here, since Gore will most likely reposition. You may have already dealt enough damage to cause its first power up roar. Not a real roar, but now you can see its veins glowing white, and this small powering up animation can interrupt its own attack animations. So Gore may go for an attack, but feint it to power up instead. After a power up, Gore really likes to do a heavy wing arm slam onto the ground. You can easily avoid it or counter it in sword mode. I wouldn't recommend trying to offset it though, since it is a pretty fast attack and he may actually do something else. In general, Gore has a good mix of very fast attacks and well telegraphed ones, but he likes to reposition a lot during the fight, which makes it difficult to predict what he's going to do next. A fairly easy move to offset though is his spinning bite and tail swipe combo. Usually he will do it 2 times in a row, so you can position yourself somewhere behind him to counter the tail swipe. The easiest move to offset, however, is probably his dive bomb. His flying attacks in general aren't really threatening. He'll usually shoot a frenzy cloud at you and then spin in the air to dive bomb onto you. So whenever he flies, morph to X mode and get ready for the dive bomb. He may also cause some bursts of frenzy in the air, but honestly they've never hit me. They are very easy to avoid. There are 4 other moves Gore likes to use a lot. First, his 3 circling clouds of frenzy, 2 sideways and the last straight ahead. He will start on the side that you are currently standing on, but avoiding this attack is very easy. You can position yourself in front of him and counter the last cloud, or you play it safe and just stand in between their travel path. Another move he'll use a lot is the sweeping frenzy bursts. These are a perfect opportunity to counter him. Very well telegraphed, and you should be moving in the same direction, as the explosions will occur to ensure your counter will land on his head. Alternatively, you just dodge away from him and morph attack back towards him. The next attack of the 4 I wanted to talk about is his wing arm slam. The camera zooms out a bit and it is very easy to just counter in sword mode, but you may fall right into Gore's trap. His pin attack has a very similar startup animation, but you can't counter the pin attack. The camera doesn't zoom out here, but it is pretty quick, so deciding whether it is a pin or a slam can be very difficult. So be careful, and for your first few hunts I'd just recommend you to dodge. If he does pin you, he will play with his food for a moment before throwing you away, which leads to his 4th big attack, his claw sweep. Gore digs one of his wing arms into the terrain and tears through the ground towards you. If you are pinned, you can roll to the side to avoid it. In regular combat you can counter it, although I'd recommend you to dodge towards Gore Magala, so with him, so you're positioned better around its head and you can keep up the pressure. The rest of his moves are quick ones to stop your pressure. He has a quick bite, which he often uses after repositioning, a claw swipe when somebody is on his flank, and while he doesn't have any attacks reaching behind him, Gore Magala is very quick and can use his wing arms to attack you at any angle. If you are further away from him, he will either shoot a frenzy cloud at you, simply run to you, which doesn't damage you, or he will do a double sweep towards your location, moving left and right, which of course damages you. You can avoid these attacks by either countering them in sword mode or dodging to the side. Offsetting his physical attacks like the bite and the double sweep is possible, but requires some practice with him. His quick attacks really teach you about overcommitting, and after every single slash of your weapon you have to ask yourself, is it safe for another swing? Gore is relentless, and also he can only be toppled if you destroy a wound on his wing arms. Front legs, hind legs, Gore doesn't care. And of course the tempered wounds will topple him as well. His tail is pretty easy to cut off, but can be tricky to hit due to his coat-like wings. Throughout the fight you should find enough opportunities to hit it though, especially the forward overhead slash for example, or even the regular overhead slash and offset rising slash are good moves for focusing damage on the tail. So basically for cutting the tail you want to mainly use vertical slashes and not horizontal slashes, as they will hit the wing membrane instead. Once in frenzy mode he will also lift his wings, making its tail more easy to hit for horizontal attacks. As for openings for full release slash or general openings on him, it doesn't look too great. Whenever he does his sweeping frenzy bursts you can quickly position yourself underneath him and start a FRS. When he's flying and just shot a spore cloud at you, you can face away from him and start the FRS. If timed correctly he will be hit by both explosions and you can hyper armor through his dive bomb. When he goes for his roundabout tail swipe attack, you can relatively safely start a full release slash underneath him as well. So in general you want to stay close to him, ideally his head as it is the biggest weak spot, watch your overcommitment and wait for the few lengthy animations for a full release slash. Otherwise poking damage will do the trick, as well as countering him a lot. Offsetting his attacks really takes some practice, so for your first few hunts you probably want to focus on the counter and not the offset. And there you have it. A complete... Oh, wait. The challenge just begun. After powering up at least 2 times, glowing veins turning from white to purple, Gore will eventually enter frenzy mode. He moves quicker, acts more aggressive and gains some new moves, one of which is a chain of his most powerful new attacks. He starts with his heavy claw swipe, but this time he also launches a spore cloud with this move. Then he swiftly spreads a carpet of exploding frenzy spores towards you, spreading out the further it is away from his mouth, and he then finishes his chain with his iconic heavy ground slam. You can offset this ground slam and also the heavy claw swipe, but if he finishes this chain, he will be vulnerable for a huge punishment. This might be the longest time Gore stands still, so use this opportunity to break his feelers. I'd probably dodge the claw swipe, counter the spore carpet, and then sidestep to counter the slam attack as well, to leave me in the perfect position to punish him. With the full release slash for example, because we don't use this move enough. Sorry. His frenzy charge attack can also be pretty scary the first few times. Dodging it can be tricky, but you can offset it, since it is pretty well telegraphed because of how he rears backwards to gain momentum, or you counter it in sword mode. The same goes for his double sweep, which is the same as in his base form, except that he now uses his wing arms for a wider hitbox. He also has a variation of his dive bomb, where he actually flanks you to attack you with his wing arms. Very dangerous attack. It can be offset though if you're brave enough and position correctly. When frenzied he will also use the 3 attacks from his chain I mentioned earlier in regular combat. He won't use his 3 frenzy missiles and instead do these sideways exploding clouds. His moves may be more devastating, especially when he chains them together, but actually he has more good openings for damage, which I will show you later in more detail on an example hunt. While you probably want to focus on his head to break the feelers, don't forget that creating and destroying a wound on his wing arms will topple him for a big damage opportunity. Also destroying tempered wounds of course guarantee a knockdown as well. If you deal enough damage to him, he will be forced out of his frenzied state, knocking him down for another big opening. Now I'd like to show you a complete hunt where I regularly slow down time and show you what I've been yapping about the whole time. The tips will be text on screen and I'll shut up for now. Keep in mind that Gore is a tough monster, probably the most difficult fight in the entire game right now. But against him, you can really show off your skills with switch axe. And also give me some feedback on this style of video and what monsters you you'd like to see covered and how I can improve. Anyway, enjoy the show and I hope you learn something. Happy hunting everyone!